Joseph Abraham to address you, who calls himself as a coaching evangelist. Well, that's an evangelism of a different kind. He's a transformation coach, gives a lot of purpose and life purpose-driven coaching. He's going to talk about enhancing the dynamism quotient as a last session for the day, giving you some quotient as you take away as you go home. So, Joseph, if I can call you. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so this is a kind of a VUCA environment for me, right? So right towards the end where, all of you are wanting to leave. But I'm going to hold you for 15 minutes. There's a saying in Hindi which says, Ghadi chal raha hai, which means time is walking. But in Tamil and in English it is, time is running. Okay, so run along with me as we very quickly, go through a journey. You have heard about dynamism. I'm going to start with a thought right away, which is your organizations already have dynamism. Don't kill it. I want to start with that thought. Your organizations already have got dynamism. Don't kill it. So I want to start very, very quickly with a quick case study. If you can help me out with that. And I put this whole thought together as to why you shouldn't, do anything much with your dynamism, which is already there, but look at enhancing it to a level which will help you and your organization and your employees to be there, to be nimble. And we've been hearing different themes and different thought leaders throughout the whole day. But very, very quickly, I want to start with this case study about Yahoo. So we all know about Yahoo. Yahoo itself, the word itself spells dynamism. Yahoo. So when you say Yahoo, it's got an exclamation mark, in fact, which is dynamism. But this organization was started in 1994, and in 1996 went public. And in between they, crossed their 100,000 mark. And if you look at the history, you will find that there were several attempts made to merge with Microsoft, and then there were 3 CEOs who came in and made a big difference. And one was Carol, second was Scott, and for the lack of time, I'm going to quickly move on to the person I want to talk, who is Marissa Mayer. So Marissa Mayer, when she came over and took over as the CEO of Yahoo, she had come from Google. She was one of the youngest CEOs, and I think the youngest CEO of a Fortune 500 company. She brought sweeping changes. Till then, this person, Scott Thompson, he was looking at, laying off as many employees as much as possible, because the previous CEO was trying to define what Yahoo is, and they were not able to define what Yahoo is and what they stood for. And so Marissa Mayer came in, she brought in sweeping changes. In fact, when people were leaving, people started to return to Yahoo, and parking lots started to fill up. They won product awards. They won awards from the media for the product design, hundreds of working apps for smartphones. And she brought something very unique from Google, which was called QPR, which is something you will be interested in as a HR professional, which is quarterly performance reviews. Now, at Google, you had something called OKRs, which is objectives and key results, and which was very simple. We all know about objectives, but this would be done every quarter. So the line manager would sit with each of these employees and look at where they stood. And this QPR that she brought had, this rating of 1 to 5, which we also have in our organizations. And 1 would simply mean that you didn't meet your objectives. 2 meant that you occasionally missed your objectives. 3 meant you achieved your objectives. 4 exceed, and 5 greatly exceeds. Now, interestingly, everyone was covered in this. There was serious goals now. People started returning back, rolled out new policies. Now, there was something called target distribution, which is every line manager had 3 buckets. And this is what I'm getting into. This is serious stuff, which is every line manager had these 3 buckets. 1 for achieves, 2 for exceeds, 3 for strongly exceeds, which simply meant there was no room for people who were in ratings 1 and 2. So, and this actually started to prove a big challenge, which was a dynamic organization. Now, if you were the line manager, you had to forcefully put your team into this. Now, if you add this up, you will realize that 25% is not here, which simply means even if you had an overachieving team, somebody had to go out. as simple as it. Now, this is called stack rating. If you might want to go and Google this. Now, that's in practice in most of the industries. Now, interestingly, you will find once this came in, it started to really, bring about a big avalanche. And that's what we're going to talk about very quickly, which is Marissa Mayer had these meetings where we should meet. We call it town halls. In their case, it was called FII, which is for your information meetings. We should meet with everybody in the organization. And then this question comes up. And one of the questions was this. I was forced to give an employee an occasional miss, was very uncomfortable with it. I have to have a discussion in my QPR meeting. I feel very uncomfortable because in order to meet the bell curve, I have to tell the employee that they missed when I truly don't believe that to be the case. And you can read the rest. This person is really going through something in his mind which he says, this and this doesn't work together for me. Now, with so many different questions that came, what do you think Marissa Mayer's response would have been? Any guesses very quickly? This is going to surprise you. She opened a book, a children's book called Bobby Had a Nickel, and started reading this out for people. She said, Bobby had a nickel, all his very own. Should he buy some candy or an ice cream or an ice cream cone? And she went on and on and on, and everybody in that room were wondering what really happened to their CEO. And after this, many people started leaving Yahoo. Now, why am I talking about this case study, even though this happened in 2013, is because of a recent book named Marissa Mayer and the Fight to Save Yahoo by this person called Nicholas Carlson, who is also the editor of Business Insider. Now, he wrote this book very recently, came out on Jan 6th, which was this. He starts to talk about how Marissa Mayer was brought to save Yahoo, but she is not able to save. And today, if you look at the figures, their main business today, the defined business, which is the digital ads business, is failing. 20% of business is growing, but 80% of the business is failing. The main business is failing. And if you look at, this is the curve. It's failing big time. Now, which simply means you can also lose your dynamism. Dynamism exists, and you can lose it if you don't engage with your employees properly. Reading from a children's book and not answering had disastrous effects. Now, I'm going to quickly move, and today we had a, myriad of learning. If you have to go back and pause and think, what is that one thing I want to learn from this session? There are many. So I'm going to cement it up for you. I'm not going to give something new to you, but we're going to look at different perspectives so that we can go back and reflect on this. And I want to actually share this because 85% in India are not engaged according to Gallup survey, and 63% are in the crisis of having new leaders. It simply means it's a big thing. Organizations are dynamic, but you're losing it. So how do we sustain it and how do we enhance it? That's a key question that we're asking. And so let's look at very quickly what makes a difference. Now, if you look at, today we spoke about dynamism, but I quickly picked a definition of dynamism so that we all are on the same page. Dynamism, in simple words, means energy and a strong desire to make something happen. It's as simple as it gets. Now, a lot of times we think dynamism is all about getting, and that's why it was good that somebody gave a perspective that, dynamism with a lot of different things that you're doing, you can, lose track and you can go haywire. But that's not the whole thing. It's to make something happen. It's very purposeful, which simply means I'm going to give you and share with you just 5 E's very quickly, and you can pick this up, take and reflect on this. I'm not going to explain much more, but the first E I want to share with you is enchanting. Now, if you are going to engage with your organization and with your teams, as HR manager, and you enable people to do that, our organization is enchanting. It's a beautiful book called Enchantment by Guy Kawasaki. You want to pick that up, read that because it's a very powerful book. Nowadays, an enchantment simply means magic. By the way, if you ask yourself, why do you stick with the organization? It's because of some magical moments you experience in the organization. Some magical moments with somebody, something that you've experienced. And that keeps you there. So is your conversation, can you create an environment where there's a lot of enchantment? Secondly, endeavoring. Now, as we saw today, if you quickly pause and reflect on what Anand was sharing this morning, he was talking about different curves, and he was talking about how if someone has not got purpose, it's not going to make sense. So purpose has to be there. A lot of endeavor has to be there. Empowering, it's not just going to tell that person, go there, that's how we need to do it, but also empowering. I think this is one place that a lot of us face challenges. And energy. This, again, is missing. I'm going to leave with the last E, for the lack of time, which is also enjoying. If people are not going to enjoy the whole process, it's not going to make a big difference. Now, interestingly, Smita helped us to go through a whole exercise of mindfulness. And you will be surprised to know that Google senior executives go through this whole program on mindfulness every quarter. And it's giving them big time results. And you should read this book by the coach, the chief coach of Google. And he's written a book, I just don't get his name right away, but you should go pick that book and how it's changing, which simply is, how can we tie all that we learned today, right? And I'm going to just leave with this thing called how. You can go back and reflect on it. One quick question that I have, and I've always been pondering is, as a leader, how can you look at every single thing that you're managing in your function and still get the whole thing going, keeping it integrated? So I'm going to present you a quick model, and this is a framework that we have developed at Elixir. Now, this is something that we were inspired from looking at business model generation. It's a nice, beautiful book. We thought, why can't we give a framework on which leaders can build on? It's not a framework. I'm not saying this is the only framework, but it really helps to give a point of reference for you to start to build things on, right? So very quickly, I don't know if you can see this, but leaders do all this. They have exceptional influence. Sometimes they're not able to show that influence, and they have people to influence, which is their leaders whom they're reporting to, their peers whom they work along with, the reportees who report to them, and also one more bunch of people there who are the stakeholders. I think I should add that as well there. Now, it's about how you build relationships with them. So having this influence, right? And how can you keep these conversations going? Now, interestingly, as Smita spoke about, mindfulness, the best way to bring that about is through coaching. And Google, they use coaching to do that. So how can you engage in ongoing conversations? I want to give one Indian company, and that will really make you think. JK Copier, the paper that we use to, photocopy, they have won the Prism Award. And Prism Award is the highest award you can ever win from ICF, which is International Coaching Federation, and a body which is known for accreditation. So they won this award. And what they have done is they have permeated coaching across the organization. They have got 19 coaches accredited. They've got different people who are under them to whom they give internal accreditation. And this goes on, which simply means that each leader influences the other person, and that permeates big time. Now, everybody has heard of 70-20-10, and I think what our observation at Elixir has been this, that if you ask yourself this question, how do I learn something? How do I learn something and I go and apply that something? And that becomes very, very critical to understand. And if you really start to ponder and think, you will start to really wonder, and this is very simple, you learn most from your leader. If you have to conduct a certain meeting, your point of reference is your leader. How did he do it? If you want to do something, you always have a point of reference of your leader. It can be your boss, it can be somebody whom you have a point of reference, but it's always a point of reference, which simply means when you start developing these people who are supposed to go and bring about performance, it doesn't happen. It's the leader who has to be empowered so that they can go and have these conversations. There are goals to achieve, performance to be met, metrics to be analyzed. We had a beautiful session where, I think Mr. Vaidyanathan spoke about analytics. A lot of analytics that comes into play. There are key partners whom you are, going to be working along with, and key resources. Now, I'm presenting this model so that all of it comes together. So at any given situation, you're able to see it together, right? I want to end this talk again with a simple case study, but I'm going to be very, very quick. So I spoke about this model, and all of this actually falls into this model. Go do a little bit of thinking. I don't want to, explore more here right now. But I want to talk about Facebook and end with this. Facebook has got one of the best, learning systems which develops leaders. They're known for developing leaders. They're growing. Now, presently, they have more than 3,000, 8,348 employees. This was a count that they took in September 2014. It's, not the present count, but they're growing big time. And if you look at Facebook, the learning strategy is very, very different, which is, we work with leaders and ask them the right questions to understand the needs and build right solutions with highest business impact. And this is what, Ben McClowan, who is heading leadership development, talks. Now, what do they do? What do they do? You should go and read this interview at, CEB, which is beautiful. And I'm just put this whole thing together in one slide. They do this. And this is just one part of the whole leadership framework that I shared with you, which is having coaching conversations. Now, what do they do? The manager, individual, has a manager, has a mentor, has a coach. Second thing, they busted 3 myths. Executive coaching is expensive, it takes a lot of time, and it requires rigid tools. They broke the whole thing. Third thing they did was, they brought about external coaches also. Fourth thing you will read from the article is they have 100 peer coaching groups, which means they're not the only person, going and talking to a coach outside. They also have somebody who said, I can coach you, you can coach me. We can do this. Fifthly, they have, peer coaching leaders. One is self-selected. They say, I want to nominate myself and become a self-coach. You are most welcome to do that. And they had variety of tools given to them. And finally, employees nominate themselves into leadership programs. Very interesting, right? Nobody tells them, manager doesn't tell them, you have 5 mandates, please go and complete them and come back. They nominate, they go and complete. They are dynamic. And that makes this whole organization very, very dynamic, right? So don't lose the dynamism you already have, sustain it, and then what do? Enhance it, right? Thank you so much for your time, and it was nice interacting with you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to staying connected. So I'm going to leave my coordinates right there.